Hello friends, my name is Lucky Lawyer. Today's topic is delegated legislation and its scope. Friends, when the legislature under the pressure of work delegates the legislative power, in broad terms it results in delegated legislation. Delegated legislation generally signifies all such statutory rules and orders which are made by an agency other than legislature. It includes notification, bylaws, schemes, directions framed under the authority of legislature. In simple words, delegated legislation means the legislation by authorities other than the legislature. The central government, the state government, the central authorities like the Central Board of Revenue, other administrative bodies are given powers to make rules for carrying out the purpose of the enacted statutes and for providing things left to be provided by the legislature or fixing things left to be fixed by legislature. The administrative bodies, although have no legislative functions of their own, still exercise certain legislative powers on behalf of legislature and on authority given by legislature in discharge of its legislative functions. They act as delegates and exercise a delegated authority. So, talking about nature and scope of delegated legislation, when Parliament passes a legislative proposal in form of a bill through the normal stages and the assent of the President of India is obtained, the proposal becomes law in the shape of an act of Parliament. Apart from a limited power which lies in the President to make prerogative orders without parliamentary assent, no person or body can exercise legislative power unless Parliament has expressly in an act delegated its authority. The term subordinate or delegated legislation is used to describe the laws made under this authority. These subordinate laws may be called rules, regulations, orders, schemes, bylaws, licenses, directions, warrants, instrument of approval, minutes. A good deal of legislation takes place in government departments rather than in a legislature, and they cover innumerable varieties of subjects. The majority of the laws that are enacted by administrative authorities are required to be registered, numbered, and published. Under the present setup, Parliament is obliged to delegate very extensive lawmaking powers relating to matters of detail and content, itself with providing a framework of more or less skeleton statutes. This type of subordinate lawmaking power is also vested in local authorities, in statutory corporations such as nationalized industries, in professional bodies like Bar Council, and in various other bodies authorized by the statute. When we consider the scope of delegated legislation under the Indian Constitution, a very important question arises as to whether there is any limit on the power of Parliament or state legislature to delegate the legislative power to executive. So, there is a case known as in Delhi Laws Act 1951, where it was decided that legislature under our constitution cannot delegate its essential functions which have been entrusted to it by the constitution. So there is one very important point, that is legislature cannot delegate its essential functions. What is the essential functions? The question is also exactly what constitutes an essential feature cannot be enunciated in general terms, but this much is clear from the opinion set out in Delhi Laws Act case that it cannot include a change of policy. Through our constitution, though our constitution does not contain any express prohibition against delegation of powers by the legislature to the executive or any subordinate body, Supreme Court has held in this particular case that legislature under our constitution cannot delegate its essential functions which have been entrusted to it by the constitution. The courts have in a number of cases laid down the principle that the legislature cannot delegate uncontrolled or unguided power. Uncontrolled and unguided power, okay? That it should lay down the policy subject to which delegation can take place. The power of repealing or amending any act cannot be delegated. Such a delegation is known as Henry VIII clause, which has been discussed in our earlier videos. This clause has been discarded in its homeland, but some traces of it can be found in Indian Constitution.